Suzanne. I am a writer and an author.
And a podcaster.
And a podcaster.
I'm Mychal. I'm a sommelier, tarot card reader, and former ballerina.
And we are here with the October Seasonette, episode 2.
Ghosts. With...
Hi, I'm Katie.
And
I'm Scott.
And so we're on the second story here. Just a forewarning, not all members who are here currently may remain till the end.
We're putting this on the category of scary.
Yes.
And so you may at some point hear abrupt headphone drops as people leave the room.
It's already been discussed.
I plan to be here for the drink description.
Yes, which is delicious. That being said, as always, A to Z, all the woo, we're a safe space. We want it to be a place that's non-judgmental. I can't talk anymore, apparently.
And we're at a real table. So
Yay!
Come up, sit here at the real table. And we have just sort of, if you listen to these October episodes and become concerned, you can always go to P for protection for information if you get scared. And also, we were just realizing you can sing the Baby Shark song, which will immediately lift your vibration and make you safe.
And sorry, go ahead.
You joke about that, but as a mom of 3, that is its own nightmare.
I mean, watch anything else that's upbeat for you if you want to change the energy in the room. Highly recommend.
So what are we drinking, Mr. Mixologist?
So this was another request from Mychal, and this is a solar eclipse. So we enjoyed this back in April.
It was a special request because it was so delicious. I will have you know that.
And we drank it on the actual solar eclipse.
Absolutely. And this is a Patron XO Cafe mixed with Aranciata soda, lemon juice, and simple syrup.
And it's just good.
It's delicious.
Okay. So before everybody checks out, I was having a really hard time with the order of this because, as I kind of alluded to a little bit in the previous episode, not everybody finds the same things really scary. So this one is really scary for some people that are in this room right now.
Guilty?
Yeah. But there was some real decision making that went in here. So just forewarning on that one. So Suzanne had something to add, though, for this.
So because I have a tiny bit of foreknowledge of what Mychal's going to say, and Katie just dropped her headphones.
I'm going to sit this one out.
Thank you, Katie.
I'll be back for episode 3.
It is going to be about things that don't have their own life source.
Inanimate objects that speak.
Okay, I wasn't sure how much of your story I was allowed to spoil.
It's okay.
So one of the reasons why this is so scary to me, and possibly one of the reasons why I will be the other person who leaves before she starts talking, is because when I was in 3rd grade and lived in a different country, I had a good friend who was the daughter of the chaplain. Y'all know I grew up on military bases. And she told me one day she was vacuuming and a red ball rose in the air and spoke to her. And if I could have mic dropped in 3rd grade, I would have definitely done that. Just repeating the stories scares me. And for years, I was terrified of the vacuum cleaner like some kind of insane cat.
I think a lot of animals would agree with that sentiment.
Is that not the definition of cat?
Do not alienate our possible readership, listenership. So anyway, for that reason, I will be leaving Mychal and Scott to enjoy this story and go hide in the back bedroom and sing Baby Shark.
Okay, Scott. So you ready for this?
Face to face once again.
Face to face. All right. So this is actually a slightly shorter story. This one happened when I was in middle school, as a matter of fact. And I had a good friend in middle school. And oftentimes, as you do at that age, you go for slumber parties and you spend a lot of time over at your friend's house. And more often than not, I went over to her house. And her house was great. Her family was so inviting and wonderful. And it did have a weird feeling about it, though. I will say that did feel uncomfortable a number of times, that there was other things kind of going on there in general. But because I was there with friends and having fun, that it allowed me to not really focus on that so much.
So, spidey senses, what was making you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, there was just always, you'd be up late at night and going from to the kitchen or from the living room to the bathroom, whenever you go. I think as a kid, sometimes you get scared of those dark spots anyway, right?
Especially a place that you don't know, you're not familiar with.
Exactly. And so I don't think that was too off, but I definitely felt it more in her house than I had in others in the past. So to be fair to set that all up. So what happened here, as we know, this was an inanimate object. When you're in middle school and you're a girl, for those of you that are not of that sex and haven't had that experience before, there's still a lot of your childhood toys that are around and dolls and things like that. And so but you don't necessarily still play with them, but they're not gone yet. And so that's kind of
Teddy bears.
all that you can imagine. Yes. And so I remember that we were in the kitchen. She had brought out one of her previous dolls that was a doll that normally talked, right? There was Teddy Ruxpin that was out at that time. It was right when that was a new thing.
So was this an active doll or one that she had grown up with and was just kind of bringing out as a, hey, look at this thing I used to play with?
Yes, it was more like that. I don't even remember why she brought it out. So, like I said, it was brought out. We were in the kitchen and it was daytime. It wasn't even nighttime, if I remember correctly. And so it was on the countertop and we were both standing there. And this was a doll that did talk previously, and which is why it kind of took us a little bit of time to put it together, what was going on. So the doll started to talk.
As they do.
As they do, but we hadn't turned it on or anything in order to prep it to talk.
So not one of those that had a wet diaper that needed changing and did it automatically?
No, it wasn't like that. What it was saying was, because at first it was, I'm trying to remember, it was so long ago. I'll tell you all the different things that it did say and what it kind of happened, though. It started to talk like, "Hi, won't you play with me? Please play with me. Come on, let's play." And we just kind of both stood there.
So enough of the sort of stock phrases that you could at least write it off as, oh,
right,
the battery just tripped.
And that's exactly kind of what we were thinking and what I was thinking, because this wasn't my doll, right?
Sure.
So I didn't know. But I also know that we hadn't taken any steps to turn on a switch. And it had been a couple of years, I'm guessing, since it had been picked up and played with. So it shouldn't have just gone off. But, you never know. Try to be rational about it. And so I did not really think too much of it. It was my friend at first who started to make a face. And then she was looking at me and I was looking at her. I was like, okay. And then she's like, we didn't touch the doll because we were still trying to figure out what was going on. And so the doll continued to talk. It's like, why won't you play with me? Please play with me. Why won't you play with me?
So increasing insistence.
Yes. I looked at my friend again and my friend said to me, she's like, it's never said that before. Like, that was not a thing. I was like, well, is there a battery in it? Is it on? Is it somehow on? So I touched the doll and I turned it over because the battery part of it was on the butt.
Usually in the diaper area.
Yes, and that's where it was. So I lifted it up and opened the thing. There was not even a battery in there. So not only was it not turned on, there was no battery in the doll, which definitely at that point
Get your attention.
Yes. And then the doll continued to talk to say, why won't you play with me? Turn me over. Turn me over. Yeah, that it knew that it was face down. And I'm trying to remember what we did to kind of stop. So I ended up turning it over again. And I think it said something alluding to the fact that it was aware of that I had turned it over. And then again, why won't you play with me? Please play with me. And it started to laugh and giggle.
That's what dolls do.
That is what they do.
Unfortunately.
I know.
For so many people.
Yes. And that's why I think we ended up putting the doll somewhere or something like that. But like I said,
Trash compactor.
something.
Furnace.
I think we covered it with a blanket and did a bunch of things.
Not known for its long-term effectiveness.
No, I actually, as far as I was concerned, I was very happy that this was not my doll, not my house. I'm sorry. But the fact that it was happening during the daytime and that it was responding to the actions that we were doing with it. And so for all of you who don't know exactly how old I am, this would have been circa 1992, 1993. And there were, like I said, dolls like Teddy Ruxpin and things like that who had talked, but a lot of them were not necessarily super responsive with you in interaction. It just had those box phrases that it would say over and it would just cycle through that. It's more of what would kind of happen. Technology wasn't that great yet.
I have to say, though,
yes,
it wasn't calling you by name.
It wasn't, thankfully. So I know the story freaks a lot of people out because it's that whole connection with Chucky, right? That kind of, you think
Chucky, Annabelle, anything, just generally a small creature that should never speak.
Really, yeah, especially if you don't have it turned on. And yes, all of those things. So normally I like to impart some kind of like lesson learned in whatever it is that I've kind of dealt with. In this one, I don't exactly know what I could say that would be, hey, don't do this in order to make this happen, except for, I don't even know.
Once your kids hit a certain threshold, just quietly
remove the dolls.
Remove their old toys. What happened? Oh, there was a fire. I'm sorry, we lost the house. We moved.
We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. But yeah, I actually forget about that story a lot, to be honest with you.
Well,
yeah.
For the number of ghost stories you seem to have,
that's true.
There's only so much a cup can hold at one time.
It was true. We kind of mentioned before, I was trying to make a list of all my different stories that I have to kind of go through and see, because I knew that some of the stories like this one are shorter, right, in my description of it. But some of my other stories there's not quite as much of a distinct moment, except for like one quick flash of something that happened. And so I'm not sharing that because there's not a whole lot of meat to to those stories.
It's the weight of them all. It's the balance of them all.
Yes. The third one is what I consider to be the scariest story because of the responses to what was going on. And if you all are wondering, like, the story is really scary, as we've already seen, some people don't like the idea of the inanimate object all of a sudden interacting with you in that way, which is understandable. And that's very scary for some, but not so much for others. So for those of you who are questioning my gauge for what is just scary versus what is effing terrifying,
you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, right. So I guess stay tuned for the next episode in the
Effing scary
Ghosts Seasonette on All the Boo.
Hey, Dizzy.